that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast. Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Tiffany Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called? The podcast, period. You're ugly. Pretty Empower approved.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. My name is J. Cal, and of course, you guys know who Tim is, but let me introduce you to someone who's we're so grateful to have on this podcast today, and that'd be none other than Joe Cazana of Joe Cazana Promotions. Welcome.
How are you guys?
We're doing great, man.
Good.
So I'll lie to you guys and say that we just are starting to meet right now, but to be honest, we were talking way before the show started, and this is going to be a lot of fun tonight. Get your soda pop ready, get your snacks ready, because I think this is going to be a fun conversation tonight. As always, guys, you're welcome to comment in the chat. Keep your comments coming. We'll read your questions so Joe can read them, see them on air, and maybe answer some of them. But first and foremost, we've got a big show coming up tomorrow night when you, Joe, have a big show.
I was going to say, you flying in for that one?
I was like, hey, what'll $20 get me?
Oh, my God. It'll get you in the gate. It'll get you a Coke.
There you go. I mean, that's not bad. But tomorrow night, obviously, it's a big event that's coming up for you guys in a huge venue. It's the house that your granddaddy built. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about coming home.
Man, it's the right time to come home. I've waited and waited and waited. I've wrestled in Knoxville a bunch of times, through my career, but promoting in Knoxville was something that I didn't really want to undertake at that particular time over the last few years. A lot of promotions have been into Knoxville, and some have done well. Some have completely died up there. So I didn't want to muddy the water, so to speak. And I feel like that now that we're looking at 50 years, since Cazana has promoted Knoxville, solely promoted Knoxville. It's the right time. And I'm excited. I'm nervous. I probably won't sleep a wink tonight. I didn't sleep worth a flip last night either. But I can sleep when I die. But I'm excited. I'm hoping that we can pack that place like my granddad did. I got some major boots to fill, with promoting this thing. The house that John Cazana built, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we can do it justice, so to speak. So again, fingers crossed.
Now, and you mentioned earlier that you did do. So let me try that again. You have ran in Knoxville with the NWA. You guys did the Always Ready pay-per-view as well as the live event that took place out there. How did it feel being in those sacred grounds of Knoxville and bringing, I know it was the NWA, but you were responsible for getting that together. How did that go?
Well, I tell you, to go back a little ways further back a bit, I was born basically into the National Wrestling Alliance. Right. My grandfather was a member of the Alliance, and I worked for the National Wrestling Alliance. It was 1986, and I'd start put rings together in 85, and I got to work for Jim Crockett. And if not for Crockett or Jerry Lawler, I wouldn't have done what I did, and I wouldn't have been able to work the territories. But to go back with the NWA, to me, NWA was always home. And when Jim sold it to Ted Turner and it completely went to WCW, I was able to work there for quite some time as WCW, but it wasn't the same. People have tried to do the NWA since, of course. Two or three people have done it okay. But this NWA it's incredible. I mean, I wish I was 25 again, because this is the kind of NWA that would appreciate, a wrestler my size, as opposed to me getting in the ring in the land of the giants like I did.
Yeah.
But coming full circle, I remember vividly, AJ, my son, was working a show, I think up in Oak Grove, Kentucky, and they had realized that, hey, wait a minute, I think that AJ's dad is an NWA alum. So they got with AJ and said, "Do you think your dad would be interested?" And of course, AJ said, "Oh my God, yeah, he'd love to do it." So we come into Always Ready, and we had a lot of, conversations leading up to it, a lot of publicity. It was a lot of fun to promote it. And it wasn't exactly what you would consider hallowed grounds of Knoxville, since it was in the convention center. Because the hallowed grounds of Knoxville was always Shohowee Park and or the Civic Coliseum. And both of those places were a little bit, bigger venues than at that time that the NWA wanted to run. But we did Always Ready, had a 2-day event there. And I believe the first night we had it configured for something like 600 people. 600 people would have fit comfortably, but we had to add a couple of hundred chairs. And it was a great show. The next day we did television tapings there, and there were probably about 300 people there at the TV tapings. So it was a very successful weekend for the National Wrestling Alliance. So that was awesome. And then, you fast forward a little bit further to Power Live, and guys, that was in the middle of January. Well, actually it was the end of January. It was cold and rainy, and I'll be honest with you, half the crew didn't even make it because of the airline delays. Right. I can tell you now, Billy Corgan didn't make it to that show. So my buddy Joe Galley and Kyle Davis were running around like chickens with their heads cut off that day. But we were able to on a Tuesday night, mind you, put 600 people in the convention center on a school night, again, like I said, and nobody left. And the show was tremendous. There was a major hiccup at the show, and we worked through that. I'll just say this, for everybody that was there, they would never have known it, but the ring snapped about 10 minutes before we went live. Oh. And my buddy Dan Jones, who works with me, he's also my lead commentator on my TV show. He ran to his truck real quick, got 4 ratchet straps. We put them with my 2 ratchet straps, and we ratcheted that ring, and it held up the rest of the night. And I'm talking about the first match out there was Legursky and Jay Brackley against the Country Gentlemen, and they wouldn't stay out of that corner that was broken. So it worked really, really well. But 600 people on a Tuesday night in the middle of winter on a school night, it was awesome. It was great. I think at one time, Joe had said that there were 100,000 people watching live on YouTube. And man, it was a great show. So the NWA is alive and well, and it's in great hands. And I am so proud to be part of that NWA again.
It's got to feel so good, if I can, Jay, just like to continue on your grandfather's legacy down there. Like, I was reading stories today, similar to what you just said about, he had $4,000 in seats on one night in the middle of like a torrential downpour. Or,
And let me segue real quick with you on that. half of those teams will be in attendance tomorrow night at the amphitheater. Les Thatcher is going to be there, and then Don Wright's going to be there. Right. And for everybody that didn't know who the Wright brothers were, man, you missed out.
Yeah. Yeah, Ron and Don trained under your grandfather when they were younger, and a very young Jerry Lawler.
Yeah. And you know, in that time period, you can't forget Whitey Caldwell either. I wish he would have lived long past 1972. Right. So
yeah, well, I was reading that because you guys were on WBIR, the world wide world of wrestling. Obviously now Joe Cazana's wide world of wrestling, but John's back then. 10% of Knoxville's population would be watching those shows on a Wednesday night, right? Like 10%. It's incredible.
Well, you're talking in a time where the city of Knoxville may have had 48 or 50,000 residents, because the county, even when I was growing up in Knoxville, it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't this big, huge place that you can't drive, but it was. I mean, when you've got 10% of the whole population coming to your shows, and he ended up, moving everything to Friday night, and selling out that same amphitheater, selling out the Jacobs building, which is right next to it, which probably held maybe 2,500 people. It wasn't anywhere near as big, but at the end of the summer, when the fair would come to town or the home show would come to town, and they'd be in the Jacobs building in the amphitheater, he'd moved to the baseball stadium, which was Bill Meyer Stadium. It would seat somewhere between, I think, 10 and 12,000 people. And he would literally have, probably 6,000, 7,000 people there. I can remember going there one night. He'd have the ring right, on the pitcher's mound. But I can remember one night, you want to talk about a torrential downpour. Yeah. And they were running. My granddad put me in the dugout, and he said, "You sit here and don't get wet, boy." So, and he said, of course, he said it in Greek, and I said, "Yes, sir." So, but yeah, it's amazing what he was able to do back then. And then even coming forward with my friend Ron Fuller, he'll tell the same story. He literally floundered for the first year. Yeah. And then, my God, man, Southeastern Championship Wrestling was my granddad's show on steroids.
It's a great watch. Yeah.
I love Southeastern Wrestling. I'm sad that I never had an opportunity to work for Southeastern. I did work for Continental. I did work for USA, but and Ron was a great businessman and great to deal with. He's come to a couple of my shows. I've had him on my podcast, and he tells a lot of good stories. So
I wanted to ask one more question. I'll hand Jay's show back for a bit. Oh, but please. I read that it was not a decided done deal for you that you were ever going to be a professional wrestler. And of course, you've been to WWF, AWA. You worked for, I don't know if it was World Class or whatever Fritz was calling it at the time, right? Yeah. You've been all over. You've done everything. And it wasn't a done deal, but that you made this decision at your grandfather's funeral.
I did. When my granddad passed away, I guess it really didn't catch anybody by surprise, because he'd had a stroke a couple of years earlier. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of sort of my granddad, but he was still a shell of what he was. Right. I mean, it was just everything, every bit of the talent that he had was gone. Mm-hmm. He thought he could still do it, bless his heart, and he wanted to come back into wrestling so bad. But what happened was, at the funeral, you got this big long line, and when you're, I guess, famous like my granddad was, people are backed up all the way out Broadway, and it's just hundreds and hundreds. And then the guys started filing in, and it was like, Ron had asked me, Ron Fuller, have you ever considered wrestling? And I said, have you lost your mind? I said, no, I don't want to wrestle. Well, what about referee? And I said, well, I don't want to referee either. He said, well, let me ask you this. He said, we're doing a Tennessee heavyweight, championship tournament next week at the Coliseum. We'd like for you and your grandmother, if she wants to come and present the title to the champion. And eventually Doug Furness won it, bless his heart. and my grandmother agreed to it. And we got to the show, and Ron asked me again, and I said, no. And he said, listen, he said, let me talk to the local trainer and let me try to get you guys together. So he did. And I knew Rick, Rick Connor, he's the one that trained me, great amateur wrestler. And he was a journeyman, man, did it all. And it was wild. So I did go to training, hurled my guts out, man, the first couple of times. I mean, puked. But there were 20 of us that started that class, and literally at the end of the training, there was 2 men standing, and that was me and Tom Pittner. And
right, your first match.
Yeah, he was my first match. Yeah. Actually, he and I both worked about 5 times in Kingsport for our very first show. It was a big deal. They had like these. It was at Dobbins Bennett, and they had like 3 rings set up, so we'd just go from ring to ring to ring. So it was interesting. I was so green, and I didn't know whether I was coming or going. Rick taught me the basics. I mean, you heard it in the documentary. AJ told the story. I mean, I started training in Rick's backyard. Right. I was taking body slams and things like that in his backyard. And when we finally got in the ring, this ring was a 16 by 16 ring. It was vinyl. It had plastic ropes, and instead of the spring in the middle, there was literally a tree stump, dead center of this ring. And man, you talk about if I couldn't make it, then ain't nobody gonna make it, because it was tough, and it wasn't easy. Back then, it wasn't like it is now. I mean, back then they'd kick our ass. I mean, They would literally just beat us from one end of the ring to the other.
I heard part of that was taking 20, 25 chair shots in one session.
That was
just to learn how to do it.
Yeah, just to learn how to get hit in the head with a chair. I mean, there's, wrestling it's 2023, so I don't, my granddad would turn over in his grave, but it's a lot of smoke and mirrors,
right? Yeah.
And there's a certain way you can get hit with a steel chair and it knock the complete bejesus out of you. And it'll jar you now. Don't get me wrong. It will jar you. But we took about, 20 chair shots a piece just to learn how to do it. And I guess Rick was thinking, well, let's see if we can get rid of these guys now. But he couldn't do it. And right after that, I got on Ron Fuller's ring crew with Continental. And I tell the story a lot. And I tell Doc all the time, I said, Tom, that my grandmother really wanted to kill you. I said, you bled all over one of my really nice white shirts. and I said, my grandmother really wanted to just knock you flat on your ass. But but it was a lot of fun. It was a learning experience, and I came in the right way. I'm granted, and I tell both my kids this all the time. When I broke in the business and when I started, being able to go to different places, especially, I started doing, jobs for the NWA in the old, Turner Broadcasting building in Atlanta, at TBS, and we would go down there and do our thing. And it was just, my name did get me in the door. My grandfather got my foot in the door. Sure. And I tell the kids this, I can get your foot in the door, but it's going to be up to you to keep it there. Yep. And that was the same, logic that I had. It was up to me to make sure I could stay, but once I got a taste of that, it was great. But at that time, I mean, guys, I probably weighed 300 pounds. I mean, I was a big dude. Then I broke my ankle, and then I got bigger.
Look at this guy right here.
Yeah. Well, that guy right there was about 270.
Yeah. Who does he look exactly like?
Well, the hair looks a little bit like AJ, but AJ doesn't have that porn mustache from the 80s.
No, I think you guys look identical to each other, maybe past that mustache, but yeah.
Maybe. But I'll tell you, to talk about keeping my foot in the door, I'd worked Scott Steiner one night, and I was a big dude. I mean, I could move and I could work. And I'll never forget, Tommy Young came and he said, Joe, Dusty and Jody need to see you in the office. And I said, oh God, what have I done? And it's like, I go to the office, I sit down, and Jody and Dusty are talking, and Dusty just looks at me, and I really can't talk good Dusty unless I scream and holler, so I'm not going to do that. But he looks at me, and he just basically said, "Kid," he said, "we love your work. We really do love your work." And this part, by the way, was cut out of the documentary. But he said, "We really love your work." And he said, "But you're just too goddamn fat to wrestle." And I'm looking at Dusty Rhodes. I'm looking at Kofi Hamilton, the original assassin, and it's like, are you guys ribbing me? So I mean, I took it to heart. But Dusty said, if you'll do the work and you'll lose the weight, he said, we'll sign you. He said, because you could do some good work with us. We work 6 days a week. We sometimes 7 or even 8 times a week, but you could do some good work with us. So I went home. I lost 86 pounds, I think it was. Bleached my hair. And thank you, Izzy Slapowitz, for that, which I got
one of those right there. Look at that.
Yeah, that's him. That's the WCW Joe, or the NWA Joe. But yeah, that's that dude right there. So Dusty had been, he was gone at that point. He got fired, and in comes Mr. Charisma himself, Mr. Personality, Ole Anderson. Yeah. And Jody held true to Dusty's word, and they signed me, and I was able to do a lot of work down there. So I was happy. And like I said, my granddad got me in the door, unbeknownst to him, but I kept myself there. And that's what I tell both the kids. I'll help you, but you got to maintain, you got to get there, and you got to show them that you got what it takes. And so far, I think AJ has done a pretty good job. So, and I can tell you now that Kirk has too. So he's doing the work.
We were both in St. Louis for the pay-per-view, and I just loved seeing your son walk around, and he had the belt. He was so happy. He was walking through the room, and I don't know if you're familiar with super fan Polka Dot Pam, but she happened to be there, and we're and Tim and I were both looking like, that's AJ. And he goes, "Oh, I'm nobody. You got Pam here. I'm nobody." And it's just like, it's such a good sport about it, and such a, very excited to be there. And I thought that was really cool to see that side of him. We don't typically when
he's a teddy bear. Don't let him fool you.
He seems like the nicest guy in the world.
He's a good dude. I mean, he gets around his mom and he melts. So he gets around me. Listen, let me tell you something about AJ. I love him dearly. I'd die for him. But the kid cannot return a phone call or a text message in a decent amount of time. I could literally text him right now, and then he'd text me back in 2 days.
Yep.
And then I forget what I was talking about. Or it would be, I could text him today. He would ignore me, and he'd text me back as soon as he saw me at the park tomorrow. And it's like, why are you texting me now? Well, you texted me. I said, yeah, 48 hours ago. But no, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. And Kirk is about as humble and as good a kid as you'd want. He's just Kirk is the laid back one. He's really laid back. Now he'll get in your crap and he'll get pissed off, but his fuse isn't as short as AJ's, but they're both good kids.
I have to imagine that, your own personal success in the ring and your success as a promoter is kind of overshadowed when you see the success of both your boys in the ring, because, that is you, that's your DNA, and you're getting to see them perform, whether it be on the wide world of wrestling or on NWA Power. You're seeing both your boys really take it to that next level when it comes to wrestling. And, AJ's been at it for a little while, but
yeah.
You were telling us just earlier that Kirk's just been in the business for a short time.
Yep. 4 months. He's going into his 4th month now, actually away from Doc and training. So yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, it's just the stuff that he's doing, and AJ will tell the same story. He has absolutely no business being this good right now.
Like a prodigy, right?
Do what?
He's a prodigy. He's learning it through osmosis. It's just in the DNA, I guess.
I guess it is. I mean, I picked it up really quick. AJ picked it up really quick. But I mean, I guess a lot of the stuff is the fact that I used to, get in the ring and work out with Kirk. when he was just, in junior high school and high school. And I taught him some of the basics even then, headlock takeovers, long arm bars, all this stuff. And I guess it just translated into his training and it just all flowed. So I'm interested. I hope I live another 30, 40 years so I can see what both these kids do. I mean, that's my goal is to see exactly, how far they're going to go and what they're going to do. I mean, it truly is really, really cool to see my kids doing this.
So forgive my ignorance, but I know that your in-ring career kind of ended in, I would say like the mid 90s, like 94, 95, if I'm right.
Yep.
Okay. And then the Wide World of Wrestling, the promotion, Joe Cazana Promotions really started in 2017. Is that the date right?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, if you go back and you look at our YouTube channel, our television stuff, I put a show on there that started the whole ball rolling, which was in 2016. And I actually wrestled on that show, and Jim Cornette was my manager.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's a fun show. It's a great show. There's no commentary. It was a show that I did for the football program down here in Meigs County, and it was a lot of fun to do it. And we've been doing shows for them ever since. So, yeah, I mean, when the Wide World of Wrestling, I guess the inception of the Wide World of Wrestling really, I didn't take the name until probably 2019. And I ran with the name. It's mine now. It's my granddad. He had actually trademarked it back then, and I've done that now. And,
it's a great name, by the way. I love it. It's so it similarly to the NWA, it pulls from that nostalgia.
Yeah.
And even if I wasn't super familiar with your grandfather's wrestling promotion, but just the name itself, I'm like, there's certain names that kind of resonate with wrestling fans. And then like another one that some of the other promoters used to use in the NWA was like Parade of Champions for their shows. Like, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that was in Texas. The Von Erichs used that one.
There was an NWA promotion, I want to say like in 2016, that used that Parade of Champions title. And it was just like, that's chef's kiss. It's perfect.
Well, Wide World of Sports under your grandfather, that ran right after CBS Wide World of Sports, right? The
Wide World of Wrestling, it actually ran right after, correct.
Yeah.
The Wide World of Sports, I think, is at 5 o'clock, and my granddad's show usually started at 6:30 on a Saturday night.
Right.
And they would tape it that Saturday morning in the studio.
Wow.
So yeah, and then they would always have some spot show, whether it's in Newport, Greenville, whatever, and they would always talk people into the buildings at that point. Have you seen the show? I mean, there is one of his television shows out there on YouTube.
I haven't. No.
I'm going to search it out later. I did. The only thing I saw was some of the clips from that from the documentary.
You can watch a whole show. It's about an hour and 5 minutes long. It's got Ron Wright doing an interview. It's got Jerry Lawler on it, Sam Bass. Just some of the old time guys. It's the only video that has ever been leaked. And unfortunately, I know who the leak was. And now it's funny. Back then it ticked me off. But I tell people a lot, they say, well, what else? Do you have anything else? And I said, you would be amazed at what I have. I have other television shows that I absolutely refuse to put out to let anybody see. They're all put away in a box. I've got my grandfather's diaries from 1967 coming forward to 74. I'm talking every card, every show, every stitch of weather, every payoff, everything that you could imagine is in this diary, including phone numbers from back in those days from, the legends. I mean, Lou Thesz's phone number and just Eddie Graham's phone number and guys like that. And then Jim Crockett Sr. I've got newspaper clippings, same thing from the Knoxville News Sentinel, Knoxville Journal from 67. Well, actually even going back even before that with the Lyric Theater when my granddad and my Uncle George, his brother, ran. But I mean, I've got that stuff and it's got weather, it's got gate, it's got it all. And I will not let that stuff see the light of day. And Scott Teal's been after me to do something with it. And I said, the only way I'll do something with it is if you do it, and then we'll decide what we want to do with it after it's done,
So. I got like 5 Scott Teal books here. He's a great writer.
Oh yeah, I love Scott. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Someone in our chat is asking, what are those collection plates in the background?
That one is Scotty. There's Star Trek 4. That is Generations. The City on the Edge of Forever. Then just one of the cast, and then that's Mr. Chekhov back behind me.
Would it be suffice to say that you're a huge Trekkie?
Yeah, you'd think.
So, what I was going to ask you is, so between the time that you left inactive competition, you stopped wrestling, and then you started promoting, were you still involved with the sport? Were you still helping out somewhere else, or did you step away from the industry for a while?
I stepped completely away from it.
Okay.
I got a real job and didn't look back. And then professional wrestling is a lot like the mafia. I mean, when you think you're out, like Don Corleone said, they pull you right back in. And in, I guess it was 2009. Actually, it was probably a little before that. My grandfather and I were inducted into the East Tennessee Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And I didn't wrestle on that show, but, I went and accepted the award. And then a couple of years later, I was asked to actually wrestle on that show with my old partner, Johnny Meadows, God rest his soul, and Ricky Morton. We were a 6-man. And I actually wrestled on that show with them. And, the bug really not necessarily hit me again. But in 2009, I was asked to do a show for the football program when AJ was in high school down here. And it was a one-time shot, and I did that, and I said, well, this was pretty fun. I'm getting a little older, and I'm kind of enjoying it. So, fast forward a little bit, I went to a few shows, as a fan in between, but in 2016 was actually the show that started it all back. So
what struggles did you have to overcome getting back into the industry, getting back into promoting wrestling?
It's struggles. The biggest struggle was not getting in the ring and making a complete fool out of myself. I did a match, like I said, in 2016 with Cornette as my manager. And I worked with a guy that I've known for years. His name was Stan Lee. That's Midnight Express, but it was Stan Lee's from Virginia, a real good friend of mine. And we had a really good match. It was a solid match. I can't say that he didn't carry me a little bit, because I was probably, 220 pounds at that point, and I was blown up. Yeah, it was just one of those things. But when I actually decided to retire, completely get away from in-ring competition, it was 2018, and I worked a guy by the name of Jerry Sampson, and I had Mark Bagwell in my corner, and Teddy Long was there. It was a great show. We made a lot of money for the school that night, but I actually got myself into shape for that. I was in the weight room. I was doing cardio. I was ready to go, and it was the way I wanted to finish, and that's kind of sort of how I finished, except for this little stint that I did with AJ when he first broke in, and we worked a match with Kerry and Ricky. And I popped my calf muscle in that match, and either Kerry or AJ, and neither one of them will admit who it was, came flying over the top rope and blacked me in the eye. So, and I tell Kerry all the time, I said, it was you. And he said, oh, no, it was AJ. I said, oh, it was both of you probably, but no, it was fun. Like I said, I hurt my calf, but, it is what it is. And right now I'm probably, for being the age that I am now, I'm probably in the best shape I've been in a long time. And
it's good to hear.
I'm doing this specifically because I want to possibly have that last go round in the NWA, maybe one or two matches. Now, you listen to Silas Mason. He booked the whole territory on the way to Winston-Salem. He's wanting he and I to do a death match with 2 light tubes and all this other nonsense. And he said, we won't even hit each other with it. He said, On the finish, Cornette can hit the ring, have 2 light tubes on his tennis racket, and just crack me. And then he said, I'll settle a little bit. And he'll say, damn, Joe, I didn't know you wanted the belt this bad here. Take it. You know, but I've got no intentions of doing that. But in the event that they would like for me to do something in the NWA, I'm going to be prepared. I'm not going to go into it like that old guy that I can remember back in the old days. Why is he getting in the ring? He doesn't even belong there. So right now I'm 215 pounds and I feel great. You know, so
who would you want to work if you had your last match in the NWA?
If I had my last match in the NWA, I'd have to work with Ricky.
Yeah, it has to be Ricky, right?
Yeah, because I mean, I've done at least 10,000 matches with him.
Yeah,
you know, and I don't think I ever won one. But I told him, I said, you know, if we ever work again, I said, you do know I'm the babyface now.
Yeah,
and I said, you gonna put me over?
I read on Cage Match once. I was looking through your matches over the years, and Cage Match is a site that doesn't have every match, but it has a lot of matches.
Yeah.
And in 1990, one night in December, I'm guessing it's like World Championship Wrestling TV taping. You worked the Road Warriors.
Oh my God, yeah.
And the Steiners and Lex Luger on the same day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I mean, it was not unheard of to do that. I mean, it was the Road Warriors are easy. People give the Road Warriors a bad name, but they were easy, man.
Good.
You know, it was we did a lot of matches with the Road Warriors, and have I wrestled Mike Jackson? Yes, I have. But we Road Warriors, man. I mean, like I said, I'd wrestle them in house shows. We'd have good matches at that point. On television, who's calling me? Oh, look, another promoter. But I had to call him back. We do a TV thing, and I was tagging. It was the only time I ever wrestled the Warriors on television, and I did a tag with Hacksaw Higgins, big dude, about 6'4", 6'5", about 325 pounds, and we're getting our match, getting our finishes. Well, on TV, Road Warriors are going to hit the ring, they're going to knock somebody out, then they're going to do their thing, tag in, finish, you're over. But so we're going over it. We're in the office with Jody, and Mike said that he said, we're going to take it on Joe if that's cool. And Jody looks up and says, no, you're taking it on Higgins.
Make him work for it.
You knock Joe out of the ring and he doesn't get back in. So I don't know. I guess Higgins might have had heat with the office. I don't have a clue. But the Road Warriors were super easy to work with. The Steiners, honestly, at that time, I had no issues working the Steiners whatsoever. Scott was about as new to the business at that point. But the dude could go, man. He was really, really good. Rick Steiner was a hoot. I mean, we'd have a lot of fun working. I worked him in a few single matches, but there was one match in particular, and it's out there somewhere. He was perfecting this crazy move off the top rope, this belly to belly thing that he did. I was the first guy he ever did it to. I was the first guy that a lot of these guys ever tried something on. But we were climbing. He got me up there climbing. He's telling me this stupid story as we're going up. And then on the way down, he gives me the punchline. And I said, you son of a bitch. And I'm doing everything I can to keep from laughing at this. It was a great joke.
Sure.
But these guys were, there were some guys that I could have killed. I can tell you, Stan Hansen, I love him to death. And I remember the first time I worked him, he said, Joe, no offense, and this is nothing against you, but when you take the clothesline, take your bump because I can't see nothing without my glasses. And he said, and believe me, I worked him for, I think it was 2 straight weeks. And after the first night, I learned how to fall real quick. But he wasn't bad. Vader wasn't bad. People think Vader was terrible.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because Vader has this reputation of being such a beast in the ring. But
he was good. He was like, Rick used to tell me all the time, you get in the ring with guys like Valentine and people like that. They expect you to lay your shit in. and Vader did too. Leon told me before we went out there, and I wrestled him in the Omni, and he told me before we go, he said, whatever I hit you with, he said, come back with it, come back with it, and I did, and it was a competitive match. It was fun. He was not difficult at all. The worst people I've ever been in the ring with, I'll tell you straight up, the worst one was Bill Kazmaier.
Oh yeah, world's strongest man, Bill Kazmaier.
Let me tell you something. You watch that match on YouTube and slow it down. He hits me with that clothesline. You see my front teeth come flying out of my head.
Oh, geez.
That's a true story.
Was it that he wasn't very good in the ring, or was he just
horrible.
really snug?
Horrible. No, he was horrible. And I dare him to tell me that I'm lying. But the thing about Bill was a nice dude. I mean, he's a good guy, but he just couldn't work. They pushed him too quick, which they did a lot of people that way. I mean, Elegante was another one. I mean, he didn't speak a lick of English. Thank God for Fidel Sierra, because I mean, when I worked with George, it was, Sierra telling me what we're going to do. And I'll never forget, Flair walked by me and the Giant. He looked at Fidel and said, this kid's going to make the Giant look good. So you take care of him while he's out there because Joe's really, really good. So I said, good. I got the stamp of approval from Ric Flair. That was great. But yeah, it was working a guy that's 7'6" and I'm 5'10". It's come on.
Yeah.
This is not a mismatch, is it, Jody? So I said, I swear I told Gene Anderson that night. I said, I think you did this crap on purpose. I'm 5'10", 200 pounds. This guy's 7'6", 450 pounds, But it was, I have literally worked a who's who in this business, and it has been a lot of fun.
Who was your favorite person to wrestle against? Was it Ricky
Brad Armstrong?
Brad Armstrong.
Yeah.
We were professional.
Let me tell you something, man. Any of the Armstrongs, all of them. The only one I've never worked was Brian. And it's not because I didn't want to, it's because he was up in the WWF and, I was not even in the business at that point. But I've worked every one of them. A couple of good stories. Quick one about Bob. We were working a show. It was Smoky Mountain, and he and I were working a match somewhere in North Carolina. I think it was Hickory, North Carolina. And his music hits. All the fans go completely crazy, they drooling over, bad to the bone. And then Bob's coming to the ring, and I look at Mark Curtis, Brian Hildebrand, and I said, Brian, where's Bob's mask? He forgot to put his mask on.
Oh no. Yeah.
So he gets to the ring, and I said, Bullet, where's your mask? And he felt his jaw, and he said, but that was fun. But the one match in particular I remember with Brad, we worked a lot. I worked with Brad, Tracy, and Steve. I mean, a lot. But one match in particular, we were in. We were some town in Kentucky. I don't know if it was Barberville, Kentucky. It was the B squad for WCW, and none of the guys had showed up. It was me and Brad, Randy Colley, and Tim Horner. We were the only ones there. None of the other guys were there. So Ronnie West was the agent, and he tells me and Brad, he said, guys, I need you all to go 30 through, legitimate 30 through.
Oh,
so
man.
we did. Listen, from the lockup, we had the crowd right here. From the lockup, he could grab my arm, and they were up here. I grabbed his arm, and man, would they boo. We had everything going that night, and it was dead perfect. And then Tommy Young, Nick Patrick had told us, okay, match 2's ready to go. Let's go ahead and we'll ring the bell. So we did that. Then Ronnie said, I can't remember who it was, didn't have his boots laced. And I told Brad, I said, okay, I'm going to ask for 5 more minutes. I said, and this is all in the ring here. I said, I'm going to ask for 5 more minutes. We'll go about 2. Hit your Russian leg sweep, get the 3 count, scoot out of the ring. Let's leave the fans happy.
Yeah.
So he did that. And then Brad and I go back, man, and we get this great round of applause. Everybody's happy, and leave it to our wonderful, fearless United States heavyweight champion. Well, how the hell can we follow that? I looked at Lex and I said, you're the U.S. champion. You ought to be able to follow anything.
You gotta figure it out.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. Ricky Morton was another great opponent. I mean, Ricky, we worked a lot together when he came back to WCW without Robert, and he was working singles. We had this big loop we were doing, and the first town was McMinnville, Tennessee, and Ricky and I jerked the curtain, and we went out there and went about 12, 13 minutes and tore the freaking house down. The rest of the loop, we were semi-main event.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Ricky's a lot of fun. He is the consummate professional, Ricky Morton.
There are two names on the list of many wrestlers that you wrestled that I just have to ask, and
Okay.
if you have any memories about them, I'd love to hear them. The first one is you wrestled one of the very few matches that Owen Hart had in WCW. Could you tell me any memories you might have had of that match?
It was a good match. I mean, I know that Owen. I guess he had gotten mad at the WWF. I guess it was after the first Blue Blazer stint that he did. So he came down to Atlanta, and I remember we were called in the office, and it was the booking committee at the time. So it was Jim Ross, Flair, I think Terry Funk, maybe one other one. I can't remember, but they had told us that, okay, Owen, you're coming in fresh. This is your first match here with us. We want about a 60-40 match, and just, do your regular finish. But Owen was a really nice guy. I mean, it was the only time I ever worked him. And there wasn't a whole lot of interaction other than we go over our match together and we thanked each other at the end of the match and, say, hey, we'll see each other on the road somewhere. He was literally, gone a month or two later. Went back to the WWF, I believe. But Owen was a great worker, smooth worker. No issues.
The other name is a very controversial name. It's one of Tim's favorite wrestlers. But back then he was a blue chipper, and I'm talking about Shane Douglas. His career. Tell me what it was like wrestling Shane Douglas.
Dude, Shane Douglas was a great worker. He was a really, really good worker. Shane actually worked on my show back in 2018. When I had my last match, he worked a tag match with Davey Rich against the Heat Seekers on that show. But Shane Douglas, man, you talk about he was a good looking baby face. The girls loved him. The men loved him. The Dynamic Dudes were a great tag team. They were a lot of fun. Johnny Ace, John Laurinaitis he was a bit green at that point. So, I mean, we'd get the heat on him and Shane would make the comebacks. But Shane Douglas was a great wrestler. Never had any issues with Shane whatsoever.
In the late 90s, when you were working with Smoky Mountain, at that point, Jim Cornette had a relationship with the NWA. Did you ever get to see any of the NWA matches kind of come down to Smoky Mountain? Were you involved with any of that stuff?
A couple of them. I was there mostly, like you said, through the NWA. I was gone when the WWF had a working relationship with Jim. But the NWA, when Watts had it, there was a couple of shows where we went and did some stuff at Center Stage as Smoky Mountain wrestlers. And then there was some stuff that they did. I really don't. I mean, there's not a lot of memory that I have of what we did because it really didn't last long enough.
Yeah.
I mean, even the WWF stint did not last long enough, and it could have been so much better. It really could have been. I don't know why it wasn't, but I was gone for before that, and then when I reared my ugly head again with Smoky Mountain, it was at the Night of Legends.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I've been looking at your roster for the Wide World of Wrestling. It's a great roster. I mean, there's a lot of familiar faces, especially for NWA fans, and anyone who isn't watching Wide World of Wrestling now, I highly suggest you go and subscribe to the channel first and foremost.
It's free.
Number one, it's free.
Yeah.
Number two, a lot of us are looking for something to fill the gap from NWA USA. It's no longer on the air, and it's like, well, if that was part of your Saturday morning viewing habits, I mean, there's 3 seasons of Wide World of Wrestling that is available to you right now.
Yep.
That you could just watch one every Saturday, or you could go binge watch all of them and get caught up
sure.
with what's going on there.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you've got 3 seasons. You've got probably 9 or 10 podcasts that I've done. Plus, you've got that crazy show from 2016 where Jim Cornette was my manager, which nobody ever saw that one coming.
Well, now I'm going to go watch that one specifically. But
it was fun.
We'll get the link up.
Your roster is extremely talented, and like I said, there's a lot of familiar faces to NWA fans. Of course, Silas Mason is your Southeastern heavyweight champion. Yep. You've got Toby Farley, for those who followed Tony Gibbons' NWA Smoky Mountain back in the day. He is the open weight champion. Freya the Slaya, who appeared on NWA Power during the Circled Squared in the first season, she's your women's champion.
And don't forget, she's doing the Netflix thing now, and I'm actually up to the 3rd episode, and she's looking pretty good.
I watched her take on Roxy today on from last week's episode, and she's grown so much since the first time I saw her. That's one thing that I kind of see that's on your show is some of the talents that I've seen elsewhere look like they've gotten a lot better when they're in your ring. Is there any reason for that, or is it repetition, or are we just seeing them in a different environment?
If you watch the show, it's basically who you're in the ring with. If you get in the ring with Snoopy the dog, you're going to be horrible. But if you get in the ring with Ric Flair, he's going to make you that much better. I try my best to make the matchups better. I try my best to get to lead them into what I want. If they improvise, they improvise. I don't mind them improvising whatsoever, as long as it comes out to the determination that I want or the finish that I want.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's all in who you put them in the ring with. Again, I've been in the ring. I never worked down. I never would work down. I would always make my opponent work up. I remember I was working an independent show a million years ago. This really tall, lanky kid was this promotions champion, and I could have snapped him like a twig, and I could have really, really just done anything I wanted to, but I wanted him to look good, and I was having him do things that there was no way he would have ever done it with somebody else. I mean, a 200-pound guy power slamming me, and it's just if you're willing to give back, I was always taught that it's a give and give business. You give, they give. It's never been really what you'd consider a take. It's always a mutual thing, or it's supposed to be. Yeah. So I think if everybody works together, then you're gonna put the best product out there. My opinion.
And in your area, I mean, I know that Pritchard and Jacobs, the Wrestling Academy, is right there. Is that where you scout for the majority of your talent? Do you go to other wrestling shows to scout talent, or how do you figure it out?
No, it's the talent that I use. I'm a creature of habit. Okay. And I like certain talents. I would venture to say even AJ's not been on every one of my shows. There's been a few that he's not made, but I mean, I've just got a good core group of people that I can choose from. And then of course, AJ will come to me and say, "Hey man, this guy right here, or this tag team." I mean, it was AJ that brought me Freya.
Right.
And she's been a great champion. She's easy to work with.
What a great get, by the way, like for AJ. I mean, she's very talented. And what she has that a lot of ladies don't have is you can't teach it is size.
Exactly. And we've got another one that's like that, and that is Audrey Allen. She's as fresh to this business as anything. But she has got the potential to be a monster. I mean, the match you saw, was that the one where she interfered in the match? Yeah. She has that. She has that. It's kind of like you look at AJ Kirk or some of these other people that has that it factor. There's something there. You just got to harness it. You just got to figure out what that it is.
She also has that look that will grab your attention right away. It doesn't look like all the other female wrestlers, which I think is super important. Not that it's wrong to have girls who are beautiful and you know, some of the girls who are really big. She was very strong. She was very muscular, and it's a dichotomy we don't see that often.
Exactly, but every female wrestler, every professional wrestler, female that we've got, they're all pretty. And they all can go. They can wrestle. They can work. I mean, Kenzie Page is going to be here tomorrow. Kenzie's worked for me a lot. I love Kenzie. I mean, I remember when she broke in. You know, Kylie's the same way. Bless her heart. I love Kylie. Ella, she can go. I mean, and my God, Camille, are you kidding me? You know, I've got all these ladies on the same show at the same time, along with Roxy and Freya. And, you know, it's like, geez, you know,
wonder if we can
I didn't see the whole, you know, Kenzie beating Camille at that particular point coming, but I'm glad I had them both booked.
You know what? I think a lot of us were shocked, and I still am, because I really still feel like Camille has kind of been the face of the NWA in the last few years. And I was kind of surprised to see her lose the title. But you know, if Billy Corgan is going to continue to grow this brand, of course, the youth movement is going to be super important, but also like really quality talent. And one thing that you could say about Kenzie Page, and that nobody can take it away from her, is that girl put in the work. I remember when she entered into the NWA, she looked different. She was very, very green, and now she looks like a seasoned pro. I think anybody would be lucky to have her on their shows, and you see it now. She's not only is she getting booked as the NWA Women's World Champion, not only is she being booked as a tag team with her sister or Ella Envy, she's just everywhere. Every independent show I see in the Southeast, I see a poster with Kenzie Page's face.
Oh, yeah. And she's a good person. You know, Kenzie and Kylie both. I knew their granddad. I know their dad. I mean, they're good people, and they're really, really, you know, believe it or not, they're, as much as they go on with this whole you know, all that nonsense, they're really, really sweet girls. And the same thing goes for Audrey. She'd probably shoot me for telling this, but she is probably one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. Very respectful. I spend you know, quite a bit of time with her. She's a really good girl, and she's going to be a really great wrestler one day.
You've got Roxy too, from Pretty Empowered in the NWA. Riley Rocket. I don't know what she's called down your way.
Well, she's Roxy now, so I mean, we call her Roxy.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Riley's dead.
Yeah. Jeremiah Plunkett. Plunky's we're all big fans of Plunky around here.
Oh shoot, I'm hot at Plunky right now. I had doggone Punk. He's at Disneyland.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
He can't be at my show tomorrow because he's at Disney. You know.
Yeah. Dressed up like Mickey Mouse on Twitter today.
Yeah. I saw that picture. I said, Plunky, I said, "Is that your new gear?" He messaged me back. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm gonna wear it at your next show." I said, "Good." I said, "Let me catch you in Cleveland, Ohio. You can wear it in Cleveland."
I know you have this big show that Jay's gonna talk to you about, but if from out of your roster, you know, we know who we know. We know our Roxys and our Plunkets and our Mason, who's just, you know, a standout, incredible prodigy or phenom maybe. Who is, and of course AJ, who don't we know on your roster yet that you think is the next Thrill Billy, the next, you know, AJ, the next Jeremiah Plunkett? Who will we know about in a couple of years?
That's a good question. Honestly, you know, I'll tell you right now, we've got a tag team. My tag team champions, nobody knows who they are, but they're going to be good. It's the Stew Crew, Zach and Dylan Stewart. Okay. They're gonna make some noise here in the next year or two. There's no doubt in my mind. Axton Ray is another one. Gustavo, he's somebody that, I mean, they're on all my shows.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, you don't hear much about him, but Axton is the only 225-pound man I've ever seen do what he does. You know, cutting these flips and this Lucia stuff that he does, and Gustavo could actually walk to the ring or dance his way to the ring and never lock up and have a great match. and never do anything. He worked with a fellow by the name of JDL last year on one of our shows, and all Gus did was he just danced to the ring, did something, pinned JDL. They're done in 8 minutes. It's like, wow, that worked. But Gustavo, Axton, Ray, you don't hear much from these guys, and honestly, you don't hear enough about Toby Farley.
He's one of the guys that I'm familiar with because, again, we're not talking about Tony Givens and Innovative Pro Wrestling, but that's where I saw Toby Farley first, and I've seen him for a long time from the Tony Givens promotions,
right?
And watching his maturation and seeing like that guy's put on size, his in-ring work looks immaculate.
I never thought he could wrestle. I always thought he was just this deathmatch king. And that was his stigma with me. And then I actually sat down and talked to him, and then I watched him wrestle. Matter of fact, he actually wrestled Kirk in his very first match. And that match is out there on YouTube, I think. And good God, what a match. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would see a match like that between Toby Farley and KC Cazana. I mean, it was crazy. It was that good. I mean, I managed KC that night, and they're doing a superplex, and I looked up and said, basically, WTF. Are you kidding me? And now I'm hearing that Kirk is doing a coast to coast in training. This kid's nuts.
Awesome.
But hey, whatever.
How old is Casey, if you don't mind me asking?
21.
So he's. Of course he's doing the coast to coast. He's 21. Yeah. He's Superman right now. He doesn't feel
but this 21-year-old is also 235 pounds. Yeah. And he's doing it. And that's crazy. I don't even think Shane McMahon weighed that much when he was doing it.
I don't think so.
So I mean, yeah, it's crazy. But I think Axton, Ray and Gustavo, they've got a bright future. Stu Crew's got a bright future. I mean, honestly, the ones that are on the show now that has not done anything with the NWA, I think it's only a matter of time before they do.
Right.
I really do. I don't know. It's just something about this NWA, man, that it just absolutely it thrills me every time I get around it. And the locker room is, I mean, my God, we just got off this tour with the Pumpkins. And we hit like 5 or 6 towns, and no arguments, no screaming, no shouting. They're all in 2 buses together, or 2 vans together. It's like a family. The NWA is a family. No drama to speak of. Of course, with Dipstick, resigning, that was drama. But I mean, it was quickly done. But I mean, They had a good run, and it could still be going, and that's what upsets me about the whole thing. Is the fact that they could still they could have this run all the way through, and they could have taken over second place.
Anytime somebody makes a decision that affects somebody else, I think that's always bad for business, and especially like I don't want to get too behind the baseball here, but if you're on the show, you're booked. If you're a champion, you're booked. There's not much more you need to say than that. If you have a title and you're the champion, of course you're booked.
Sure.
So
sure
I won't say anything more than that, but
no, and I'm not gonna. I don't. I mean, and honestly, he did good work with us at JCP. He did good work in the NWA. But I think that and I'll just say, I think that decision was. I don't know if it was well thought through or not. It's again, I've not spoken with him, and it's none of my business. But it did affect my son, and ultimately, AJ Cazana is still Andrew. He's Andrew. He's my son, right. And when he's hurt, I'm hurt. So, but I think he's over it now.
Yeah, and I'll add to this, not being no part of this whatsoever, is no grudges forever in pro wrestling.
No, right? Absolutely.
Things change in front of the camera, behind the camera, all the time.
Oh yeah, every day, all day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
My youngest, Piper.
Oh, okay. Named after Roddy.
You got it.
Hi, my friends. Hi, Dad's friends.
All right.
Hi, Dad's friends.
Yeah, she's my little hot rod. Yeah. So getting back to it, then, we were talking about who you think might be next, but who are some of the guys that haven't appeared on your show yet that maybe you would like to bring into, the next event? Is there anyone else in the NWA roster that you're looking at saying, he'd be a good fit?
Yeah, I mean, I look at that NWA roster and it's like, God, these guys are good. Honestly, I want Trevor Murdoch.
Oh,
I mean, now who's calling me? Oh, that's my mother.
She's like, Trevor Murdoch, is he coming?
Yeah, that's Trevor calling me. No, Trevor would be great to have. Mike Knox would be great to bring in.
Oh yeah.
God, it's just, I mean, I would love to bring in La Rebellion. I mean, I think they would be great to bring in, and I'm not so sure that Stu could keep up with them, but I think that they could really, make Stu better.
For sure.
But I mean, those guys are great. So I mean,
Fantastic.
honestly, it's just. But Murdoch, I think is probably one of the number one people that I'd love to just bring in. I mean, and if I could get him and Knox at the same time, that'd be even better.
I'm going to throw two things out for you, and feel free to dismiss them anytime you want. But having watched Jax Dane and AJ together, I could watch those two guys fight forever. And better yet, I could watch them team up. I know that, I don't know what's in the cards for AJ, but Jax Dane, that's my guy right there. And
I'm gonna tell you something about Jax. I love Jax. Jax is a good dude. I want him to come and work here. It's just never worked out. We've talked about it. I mean, he just lives right down the road. He's not far from us. He's down in Saudi, and he's right here. And Jax is. I mean, think about Jax Dane. Jax Dane has done it all. Yes. There's nothing that Jax hadn't done. He carried the NWA with the championships, whether it's the world title, national title. He's world tag team champion. I think the only one he's not gotten was the U.S. tag titles. And it just seems like that he and Blake couldn't get it together to beat the gentleman. And then Silvio sticks his nose into everything. But no, I got all the respect in the world for Chris Silvio. I really do. That guy right there, he and to give him his props, he gave me the workout that helped me lose this last 62 pounds. Oof. And, my hats are off to Silvio, and I will sing his praises to my dying day for doing that. Jared Fritz is another one that has helped me with this whole, the weight loss thing. And matter of fact, Jared's going to be here tomorrow. He's going to referee the show. Kirk's picking him up at the airport in the morning. But it's honestly, man, I'm having the best time of my life right now in this business. I mean, I had a lot of fun when I was wrestling. Don't get me wrong. I mean, drinking on Ric Flair's dime is always fun. Getting Bobby Eaton to buy anything was always fun. But this is the most fun that I've had, and I'll tell you, I absolutely love the National Wrestling Alliance. I mean, just because my kids work there, that's all well and good, yada yada yada. But I love the National Wrestling Alliance. And I'll tell them every chance I get. There's absolutely, I get excited every time that I hear that we're going to do something, and it's a lot of fun. Silas versus Murdoch, that'd be good. That'd be like Jax and AJ.
And especially you talk about that, the Southeastern Championship. I mean, I
don't know what I'm going to do here. Silas is your national champion, and he's working Latimer tomorrow night. So Latimer's going to work for the world title. He's going to wrestle EC3, and it's like, okay, guys, something's got to give here. Are we going to defend the national title tomorrow night? Probably not. But could you imagine Latimer taking the Southeastern Championship from Silas tomorrow night? You never know.
I look, I know this isn't official and no one else is, but maybe me saying this, but I feel like there's, at this point, at the very least, there's that cousin type relationship with the NWA. And I kind of feel like, even though that these aren't NWA sanctioned titles, I feel like these titles have meaning for NWA wrestlers and potential NWA fans. And I would pop if I saw Tom Latimer show up in October wearing your title. You know what I mean? Like that would, people would be like, well, what's that? And it would kind of add to more to the allure of who Tom Latimer is. Like, hey, he's not just a one-trick pony.
Oh, God, no. No, Lord, no. Tom Latimer, man. At some point over the next little while, he's going to be the world heavyweight champion. There's no doubt in my mind. EC3 is going to be a great champion.
Oh, yeah.
He is. God, I can't say enough good things about EC3. He's really, really good. He's a good dude. I guess my relationships with these guys are a lot different now than they would have been if I was still a competitor, because I see both sides of everything. But I think that EC3 is going to be a great champion. I think he's going to hold the belt for quite some time. But I think that it's going to be Tom Latimer that eventually dethrones him. That's my guess. I'm booking the territory. So
sure.
Billy, Joe, Kyle, if you're watching this, let's move on this thing. Let's do it at Power Live in January or something.
If it were up to me, I think that would be the hierarchy too. I tell anyone that'll listen, I feel like EC3 right now could be this version, this era's version of Nick Aldis, where
very possible.
All these great things as world champion, having taken the belt to the United Kingdom, to Canada, and all across the globe. I really feel like EC3 could do the same thing, maybe even better.
I think he will. I mean, he and I have talked about him coming here and defending the championship.
Oh,
that'd be great.
Yes, please. I don't live in your area, but if that's on YouTube, I'm watching it. I really strongly believe that EC3 is the guy that the NWA needs. And that's not to take anything away from Tom Latimer, because I think he can be that guy too.
Well, don't forget though, EC3 is over, man.
Yeah.
I had to
that was out there. That was great. Let's talk about the event tomorrow.
Sure.
You said it offline. This is kind of like your guys' WrestleMania.
Yeah.
You've got 4,000 seats to fill in that venue, and you're bringing in some pretty heavy hitters as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we already talked about how great Freya the Slay is. She's going to be, I believe she's going to be defending her championship.
You never know. I haven't even announced those matches yet. There's only a couple that I've even announced.
You spilled the beans about Tom and Silas tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a given. I mean, my God, my champion has to go up against the hottest baby face in the NWA right now.
That's going to be a good match. Are these matches going to be filmed for your channel later? Are we going to be able to watch these later, or this is exclusive to? So that's another thing for all the NWA fans out there who are listening to this. There's going to be some dream matches for you on this card.
Well, let's go ahead and let's just run the card a little bit. You want to?
Right.
You're gonna get a scoop right now.
Scoops. Right. We love scoops.
God, do I want to give you? I ought to just give you the pre-show and just let you go with that.
Rolando versus the towering giant of Gustavo, right?
No. They've already wrestled and they had a great match. Matter of fact, you see the little red book right here. I still use the little red book.
That's amazing. I love it.
And right here is the actual card of what we're going to do tomorrow night. And I might give you a couple little things. I will tell everybody that the legends will be announced during the pre-show. So you might want to get your seats around, I don't know, 6:45 or so, and give these guys a round of applause. Now, believe me, I didn't want to do it, but the doc said, "Oh, you got to be one of the legends too." I'm not a legend. I don't consider myself that. A lot of people do, but I don't. I'm just me. But I'm going to be doing that too. But I'm going to introduce all of them, and we're going to do that. There'll be a couple of. There's going to be a 6-man and a regular tag match to kick off the show, kick off the pre-show. Another kid coming in that's really good. Now Kirk's got 2 straight wins on him. And they're working the three-peat. They're going for the 3-peat Saturday. His name's Tyler Shoup. He's pretty good. There is. I'll give you this match here. The Blockbusters. These kids are from England, and they have been working with Doc for the last 2 or 3 months. They're actually going to take on Devin Dixon, and I know you guys know who Devin Dixon is. Yeah. Used to be Silas's partner, and then his partner, Big L. So that's 2 members of the TVA. And so they're going to do that. So there's a match you're going to get to see tomorrow night. Toby Farley is going to defend his championship tomorrow night. I'm not going to divulge against who. Gustavo. This is a match that I think a lot of people have already seen out there on Facebook, because they've kind of been, I guess, bickering back and forth a little bit. But and this match has got the potential to steal the show tomorrow night. And it's going to be Kerry Morton against Cazana. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, man. I just think that this match has got that potential to do exactly what I just said. Shame Kerry doesn't have the championship anymore, but that's okay. They're going to have a great match anyway.
Kerry's a heavyweight now, so it's all good.
Oh, Kerry's not a heavyweight. I don't care what he says. I mean, I'm closer to a heavyweight than he is. I'm 217 pounds right now. Kerry's probably about 205 or 10 pounds. I tell you what I did do on the tour that we went on. Kerry left his belt. He left the belt out at the table, and KC got it. And he was pretty much in charge of that championship for 5 days. But he left it out there. So I cut a promo on Kerry. I told him, I said, you know what, Kerry? I said, at that time I was like 225 pounds. And I said, in my day, 225 pounds was a junior heavyweight.
Yep.
I said, maybe you ought to think about possibly defending this thing against me. But I've got the championship right now. I said, I'll see you tomorrow.
The possession is
Lay it over your shoulder. Come get it.
I just held it, then I went back and gave it to him. He didn't mean to leave it out there, but I like I said, you'll see Silas against Latimer tomorrow night, which is going to be a great match. Honestly, though, I'm not going to give you anything else.
We'll have to wait.
Here, sneak peek. There you go. But let's just
hope you all screenshot that.
You will never see it. I moved it too fast. Superman speed. But it doesn't matter, because every match on this show, I will guarantee you, is going to be worth the money. And honestly, all you got to do is pay to get in the fair, and you can come to the show for free. And it's going to be a great show. And for all you people out there that like to drink beer, they're going to sell beer. Much as I hate that, but they're going to sell. I mean, don't hate beer, but I just think wrestling. I don't know. But concessions, though, of course, there'll be concessions. The guys will be selling pictures and T-shirts, and the legends will be there doing their thing. And of course, I told Doc, you got other responsibilities, so you don't have time to sell your pictures. He said I couldn't sell them anyway, but. No, I'm looking forward to everything we're doing tomorrow. I'm a nervous wreck about tomorrow, because I got big boots to fill, like I said.
Well, we know where it is, in the house to John Belt, but what's bell time tomorrow?
Bell time 7 p.m. is for the main show. Pre-show is going to start about 6:15, give or take. Gates are going to be at 5:30 unless there's a line out there. If there's a line, then I'm going to let everybody in early. Come out, see Tom, see Camille, see the longest reigning NWA, women's champion of all time, 813 days, I think, which is crazy that Camille held the belt that long. But she did. And Kenzie will be there, Kylie, Paige, Ellie Envy. So there's 3 world champions right there. Of course, AJ, Casey, Silas Mason. I mean, it's just Ricky Morton will be there. Kerry Morton's going to be there. Rolando will be there. There'll be funnel cakes, I'm sure, and fried Oreos too.
So you're talking to a fat guy right here. You're selling my language here. If I was anywhere near Knoxville, I would be there for sure.
That's what Billy said the other day when I was talking to him. He said, "Man," he said, "I want to come to this show." I said, "Well, all you got to do is get on a plane and come down." He said, "Well, tell the future Mrs. Corrigan that." I said, "Oh, well, it's okay. Don't worry about it." No, I think that this is whether there's 4 people or 4,000 people there, I'm going to give these people a Cazana show. I mean, it's going to be the best show that I can put together, and this is something I want to build for the future as far as with the Tennessee Valley Fair. It's the biggest fair. Nashville can say what they want to, but Knoxville's got the biggest fair there is in the state. Like I said, we compete with Nashville on everything. They get a pro team. We don't, we wanted the aquarium and Chattanooga got it, but it's okay. But the show is going to be great. I promise that we're not going to be there till midnight. Believe me, we're not going to be there till midnight because we can't be. We're but this is just one of these events that literally this is the first time again that it only happened one time, and that's 50 years, and it'll never happen again. So if you're listening to this thing, and I tell everybody all the time, if you're an old school wrestling fan, whether you know the product or whether you don't, just give us a chance. Don't doubt us until you try us. And again, that's my mantra. That's my logo. That's what I say. I feel like that, and in my heart, I've got the best professional wrestling company. I got the best professional wrestlers in all of the East Tennessee Valley. Right. I don't think that there's any company that's any better in the Valley. There's 2 or 3 companies that work upper part of East Tennessee that are really, really good. The promoter that had just called me, he's SPCW. He's really, really good. Again, Kenzie's home court, her and Kylie's is KFW, and Tommy Henry runs that, which is, Kenzie and Kylie's father. Great show. Rodney Freeman, Lou Freeman runs Kingsport, does a great job up there with Imperial Pro. Tony Givens, like you mentioned him, Innovate is really, really good. And then the new kid in town up there is Net Pro, and that's run by Dan Jones. SSW is up there in Kingsport. So, I mean, there's quite a few, organizations up that way. If you come down this way, you've got Jaden Newman down in Chattanooga. He always runs a good show. So we don't ever run on top of each other, and we all kind of get along with each other. And, I mean, this is a good time to be a wrestling fan. 100%. But tomorrow night is I don't know, man. My day's going to start about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's not going to be over until probably midnight or later. But it's just one of these once in a lifetime things. Like I said, you are never going to get another 50 years.
Right.
This is it. And we're looking forward to whatever, it holds. The weather is supposed to be absolutely terrific tomorrow night. I mean, the high tomorrow in Knoxville is 79 degrees.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Sunshine, beautiful weather. If you talk to Pollo Del Mar, tell her she should have been here.
I will.
The last time I had Pollo booked, couldn't catch a flight. Kept canceling on her. But we'll definitely have Pollo Del Mar back at some point. But man, this is a great time to be a wrestling fan. The National Wrestling Alliance is exactly where I want to be. And it's exactly where, and I made the comment to Kyle Davis last night. I believe in my heart that the NWA will become the number 2 company within the next year or two. I solely believe that. And I say that because it's run professionally, it's run the right way, and they don't throw money after every WWE superstar that gets let go. And I know that the Cons have billions of dollars, but just how much are they willing to lose?
I'm not gonna say anything bad about the Cons, but the situation with CM Punk I don't know. But Joe, I want to say first and foremost, good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
100%.
it.
Yep.
Very hopeful that you have the crowd that will be meaningful for you.
I hope so.
This is, like you said, it's the first and last time you can do 50 years, and we're hoping that you have a great sellout.
Thanks,
secondly, you shook my hand in Nashville. I said, hey, I do a podcast. You said, yeah, come on anytime.
Yeah.
Without hesitation, you volunteered to jump on. So not only do I respect you, but I'm also very happy that you came on, because this was a great conversation.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on the show, and I enjoy doing these from time to time. I mean, I don't do a lot of them, but when I get a chance to talk about the NWA or JCP, it's a lot of fun. And there are a lot of stories in my head that I can tell, and there's a lot of stories in my head that I'll never tell. But it's been a pleasure being on here with you guys. Now I've got to go and deal with the rest of my night. So yeah, I've got like 18 phone calls and messages and my mom and everything else. So you know how it is when an 80-year-old mother gets on the phone and she'll keep calling and calling and calling. So, well, but it was a pleasure with you guys, and I'm happy to come back anytime y'all want me.
Well, I'm going to hold you to that. And tell AJ that you beat him onto the podcast, because I've been reaching out to him for a while too. So
he just won't answer the phone.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for everything. Guys. Best of luck tomorrow night.
Thanks, Joe.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Have a good one. Oh, I cut him off too soon. Say it one more time. Sorry.
What am I supposed to say?
I clicked you off the screen too soon. You were saying.
Well, I was saying, well, you kayfabing me or something. Oh, I just said it was a pleasure, and you guys have a great night. And I know you're on the West Coast, you lucky bunch of dogs. Because it's about 5 o'clock out there.
For me, it is. For this guy, he's in Canada. He's
you're on the East Coast, or you're on my time then.
Yeah, it's 9:30 here right now.
Yeah, 9:30. That's about right. So I'm going to go and do my thing, and guys, y'all have a good time and have a great podcast. And I'll talk to y'all soon.
Right. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Joe Cazana, man, that dude is amazing. I knew he was a good guy. Like, look, I'm not. He's still in the screen here. He could still hear what I'm saying. I knew he was a good guy. I didn't know how good of a guy he was.
Great guy.
How good? Like, he was very respectful, very nice. Gave me a high five, shook my hand. Come on, give us an hour and a half of his time before the big show, the big event tomorrow. And again, follow him on Twitter. Make sure you guys go subscribe to that channel, because first and foremost, like he said, it's free. It's free. And it is good quality wrestling. And Willie Bowen's always in here talking about Freya the Slayer. We're all huge Silas Mason fans. We all love Jeremiah Plunkett. Midnight Heat wrestles for them, former NWA World Tag Team Champions. AJ Cazana, KC Cazana, KC is going to be kind of a big deal in the future, I think, for both wrestling promotions. It's not a hard sell. They've got some pretty good wrestling. I totally back them up. I think you guys should check them out. Lutha says, I need a big bottle of that Cazana. That's the juice right there. I'm telling you, and I've watched a few of the programs. I'll be honest, I haven't seen every single one yet, but over the last 2 days, I've watched the last 2 episodes. And it's good wrestling, pure and simple. And a lot of you guys who are looking for that fix on Saturdays, because there is no more NWA USA for the time being, you can make Joe Cazana's Promotions Wide World of Wrestling your NWA USA. I don't know if that's coming back anytime soon, but you could certainly get caught up very quick watching that.
Yeah, maybe we'll start covering it over on the other show. That's
Poyle Damar has been waving that flag for a while. I don't know if you ever jump on her live streams on Twitch, but that's what I got introduced to. I think she calls him Papa Joe sometimes.
Yeah.
But so other than that, the only real piece of news that I want to break, that if you haven't heard already, if you watched Power, but we have a world title match set for Sao Wen. Boom. This is the match we knew we were going to get. It's a very exciting match. Are you looking forward to this one?
I feel like it's EC3 versus Camille with Tom Latimer.
Yeah.
No, I am. I'm slightly disappointed in the sense that it's happening so soon.
Yeah.
And I hope it leads to something further down the road. These guys have worked. Yeah, they worked together before, and they can stretch that stuff out, and that'd be great. But this is something I would have liked to see a nice long build for.
They unfortunately painted themselves into a corner that you really can't. Look. So the promo that Tom cut prior to the 75th anniversary show, he said that, hey, whoever is standing on top of the mountain at the end of 75, he's challenging for the world title. So we knew that it was coming. He won the best of 7. You're right. I don't want this match to happen this quickly, because at the end of the day, I want both these guys to be world champion, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think although Tom, I think, would make a great world's heavyweight champion, I feel like the time right now is for EC3. He's already got dates lined up as world champion. We mentioned in the Discord that he has already will have 4 title defenses before he gets to Sao Win and before he gets to Tom Latimer. And when you think about that as, juxtapose that to the last champion, and not only that, but if he retains the title, he's got matches lined up after this too, and that's leading into December. So it's not like he's resting on his laurels. He's definitely out there trying to do something as world heavyweight champion.
I think he's going to be great too. And like you just kind of said, he'll have almost as many defenses as our previous world champion did in his entire reign. And that says something about both of them.
Yeah. Going back to Joe Cazana real quick. James H. Jackson, friend of the show, says it's amazing he can do all this for free on YouTube. He's not even at 1,000 subscribers yet, which I like. That pains me when I see a promotion like Joe Cazana's. I see a promotion like Dog Pro Wrestling, Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. I see these promotions. I've been to Dog. I don't know how they don't have 1,000 subscribers yet. I don't know how they can't. Their content isn't being monetized because there's not 1,000 subscribers. There's no logical reason why these people don't have over 1,000 subscribers. They're giving you such great content for absolutely free. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. It's Joe's around 800 right now, and he's doesn't need that much more to get over the top.
No. James also says that Camille being there was the only downer for me. It's like, why was she there in this segment? Back to the promo. Yeah. And I don't understand why she's in the poster either. But that just kind of feeds what you just said. It's kind of like Camille versus EC3 in some ways.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, it's part of the deal. I get it. She speaks for Tom, and that's maybe not a terrible thing overall. But I just, here's these two big meaty guys, as we say in the Discord, right?
Yeah.
And they're, EC3 just smoothly talks about, we all know what this is. We know what's coming. Let's get to it. And he's going to open his mouth, and here comes Mrs. Latimer, right? And she was fiery. She had a lot to say, and everybody watching went, "Oh!" But I kind of want to hear Tom say it.
Now, you want to hear something that's absolutely ridiculous because I was there, and I have no memory of this segment happening. And I'm trying to think, did I block it out? Or did it happen? And because I didn't leave I didn't go to the bathroom while taping was going on. And I'm wondering if they did this before the show, or I don't know. I don't know how I missed it.
I heard online that you were drunk at a Hooters, so I don't know.
I had one beer the entire time I was on tour, and it was from the lady who was working at my hotel who informed me that she used to do apartment wrestling.
Ah, yes.
That was,
I have nothing to say.
Real quick, I have to tell the story because it's just so bizarre. I even told my wife because that's how bizarre it was. Get to the hotel at 4:00 in the morning after Gary Horn drops me off. I'm literally in the hotel room till about 5 before someone walks in. So a whole hour just waiting. I literally have my phone is on. I'm calling the front desk. There's nobody there at the front desk. I literally walk behind the counter and start typing on the computer, just hoping somebody would come out and say, "What the hell are you doing?" Nothing. And I start yelling, "Hello, hello!" Nothing's going on. And so finally, somebody walks in, and I'm talking to the lady. I'm like, "Hey, look, I've been up since last night. I'm exhausted. I just want my room." She's like, "I'm sorry, I work maintenance. I can't help you." I'm like, Can you call somebody?" So she calls somebody, and then there's the whole fiasco. I finally get checked in. There's a whole fiasco of me not having a ticket for the TV taping, and I went all the way down there, and they basically told me no. I went back to the hotel room, and then someone said, "Yeah, come on down." So I go back down. That's 3 Uber trips right there. When I leave the room, I forget my room key because I'm so excited.
Oh,
And the lady working the front says, she goes, who leaves their key in their room? I go, apparently somebody like me. I've been up since 4:00 this morning. Were you the guy that was here early? And I go, yes. She goes, they called me to help check you in. I said, look, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble, but like no one was here. Like all these snacks that you have, I could have stolen them. I could have went back and got a beer. She goes, you want a beer? I'll take a beer. And that's the only beer I had while I was there. And then we started talking about wrestling, and she told me who her favorites were, Matt and Jeff, the Hardys. She's a 2000, Team Extreme fan. And then she told me that she used to wrestle, do customs.
I see.
And I'm like, what was your name? I'll look you up. She goes, oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, sure. Her name was Treasure.
Yeah, her name was Treasure. I'll always treasure those times in St. Louis. Real quick, Dave Scooby says, I wonder what surprises Billy has in store for the spooky pay-per-view. All I ask is that there will be no boogeyman. I don't know what surprises he's going to have. He did mention that there's going to be a big announcement at the Exodus Pro show, which I believe is earlier. I think it's this month, but maybe it's next month. I don't have the date in front of me.
It's going to be the Yeti, and
the
Yeti's going to appear and I don't know, dry hump whoever's standing in the ring.
It's going to be Tom Latimer, of course. and then for his trouble, Camille will spear the decrepit Yeti.
That's right.
James H. Jackson said, Sam, I started watching a year ago. Sandoval got me into it. Okay. That's great. Joe Cazana, again, I really dig the content. I watched it. This isn't just me making stuff up. Joe was great, but like I literally started watching the show and thought, wow, this is really good. And the thing that keeps clicking with me is like, look, with USA being gone, you could always watch Memphis from the United Wrestling Network. There's Derby City, when they're still airing stuff. But then, there's nothing wrong with checking out Joe Cazana Promotions. And again, if you're an NWA fan, it's the closest thing to like a member of the territory.
Right.
Kikuchi says Dog does not have 1,000 because they put Dave Dahl online. There might be some truth to that. Although I heard he was really popular with the Cubby Bear crowd. So I don't know about that.
Some guy kept yelling, Dave Dahl's my favorite sports entertainer.
Yeah, and then I got dirty looks for doing it. Matthew Underwood said, what have I missed? Billy's big announcement. Jade Cargill's going to the Fed means Camille to AEW. I mean, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. When you look at the WWE that's trying to have a women's tag team division, though, wouldn't a tag team of Jade Cargill and Camille be pretty outstanding? Just saying. No?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably in the minority in saying meh to that one, but I mean, if her time's up in the NWA soon, and I don't know one way or the other, I guess I could see AEW, but maybe Impact.
I feel like Impact doesn't get the respect it deserves, and I don't watch the product either, so I guess I'm part of the problem. But anytime I've watched it in the last year, I've enjoyed it. The matches, the talent, the promos, the production, it's all good. It just needs a little bit more love too.
Billy's big announcement, was this the depending on how you say it, preface or preface in some other colloquial terms elsewhere?
Yeah, I think it's preface.
Yeah. Is that just it's a training camp?
From what I understand, it's basically like almost like a tryout. They're going to have our pal JP will be there. Maybe we should have him come on and talk about it. Obviously, EC3 will be there. Billy will be there, and they'll be doing evaluations on talent. And, who knows? Maybe Exodus Pro becomes like a farm fed to the NWA. We talk about how, Joe Cazana Promotions has become kind of like a part of this territory. I could easily see between Boca Raton in Florida, Knoxville being the home of Joe Cazana Promotions, and then and then further east or further north being Columbus with Exodus Pro. I mean, it feels like that could be a kind of a circuit, or at the very least a loop, right?
Yeah, I would agree. If someone was saying earlier about in the chat, I forget who, sorry, about maybe this is the new territory era. I don't think it's going to go that far.
No,
but the loop's a good word. Yeah.
I think it won't be a territory in that it'll be NWA Exodus Pro or NWA Jim Crockett, or excuse me, Joe Cazana Promotions, or NWA Boca Raton Wrestling. But having Silas Mason defend his NWA National Championship in Boca Raton or in Exodus Pro or in Joe Cazana Promotions, I feel like kind of helps legitimize these championships, right? And if you've got EC3 touring, coast to coast and having matches in Salt Lake City and having matches in, who knows, maybe Australia, having that balance of having your regional champion defending in a loop that's, Tennessee, Ohio, and Florida, I think is not a bad way to go either.
I've often thought, just as a belt mark, I guess, wouldn't it be cool to kind of have regional championships with the Missouri Championship, right? With one belt here, one belt there. Yeah, perhaps Australia. There you go.
I don't know if I've ever told you this story, Tim, but All Star Wrestling Australia is our old pal Pole Jump.
Yeah.
And back in the days on our NWA message board, not the Discord, Pole Jump was a guy who I have the utmost respect for, because he put his money where his mouth is. And he used to say how easy it was to promote wrestling, and that, it wasn't as complicated as some of us made it out to be. And, honestly enough, one of the names he used to talk about was, Chris Masters. Hey, this is a guy that I could use. Oh, you can make money with Chris Masters. And we're like, come on, man, stop it. But he literally did book Chris Adonis to work his shows. Chris Adonis
just this past year, right?
Yeah. Maybe it was last year. Adonis held his title. So nothing but respect for Pole Jump. And if you could get EC3 out there, I'm sure I could put a good word in. Yeah, because EC3 bought me a shot.
Hey, nice.
Yeah. He bought the bar a shot. I just happened to be in the bar.
Did he instruct you to control your narrative in the
alliance? There was no talk about never mind. I don't want to get demonetized. We won't talk about that. Okay. So, I mean, Joe was great. He went way longer than I thought he did, or thought he was going to. So I don't think we'll beleaguer power.
Sure.
I felt like this might have been the worst episode of the year, and only because of that junior heavyweight tag team match. I just thought
cluster.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna wrap it up. Timmy, thank you for jumping on, man. Our pal DKM wasn't feeling so well, and we might be seeing a lot less of Jaden as he's back in school to prove to his mom that he's no fool. And so I guess that'll do it.
That's it.
That's the show.
Get out of here.
I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the Thursday podcast. We will try to do more interviews like this. I have been reaching out to guys like AJ Cazana. If you're listening, come on, man, let's go. But I am reaching out to more and more talent, and not just talent, but also promoters to try to get on to talk some wrestling with you guys, talk NWA, but also talk just pro wrestling in general. We'll try to keep more dialogue happening on the show. So again, thank you guys for being here on this Thursday. I'll be back on Tuesday for the pre-party. Tim will be here with Dave, Scooby, and Jeremy to do the a new time, right? We're going to do a
6:30, 6:30, or 6:35, something like that.
Get you guys
30 minutes later. Yeah.
Get you guys 30 minutes later to get you home a little bit earlier or later, depending on what makes the world turn for you. Anyways, we'll call that a night. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Timmy, thank you for being here. And until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.